Hello, welcome to another Album of Record podcast. I'm Craig from the frozen tundra of Cleveland. He's Andrew from the frozen tundra of Columbus. You're listening from a frozen tundra somewhere. How's it going, Andrew?
Unless you live in Florida.
Yeah,
Florida
even
is the
there,
exception.
55 degrees feels like a frozen tundra to Floridians.
Yeah. Well, other than, having 13 inches of snow, I'm doing okay. Got a couple work from home days, which I spent listening to a lot of vinyl while working, which I really enjoy. Perusing through my collection. And today was also a big day because for people who watch on YouTube may have noticed I've been wearing glasses in a lot of the recent episodes. And that's because my old pair of contacts got too old and they were drying out my eyes too much. And I have been so busy over the last 2 or 3 months that I haven't been able to get an eye doctor's appointment. But I rectified that today. I went to the eye doctor and got a new pair of contacts. So now I can have this bright light shining in my face and not reflecting off my glasses. It's a good day, Craig. I bet you didn't know you were going to get all this information when you asked how I was doing, but here we are.
No, I like it. And, this is the opening banter section of the podcast where we talk about all the different things going on. Man, yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting contacts, but I back in the old days, I had contacts and then I got LASIK and I thought I was living the high life, but now I'm old and I need reading glasses, so I'm kind of right back to where I was.
I'm a bit of a coward. I would love LASIK, but it freaks me out.
Yeah, it should, but also, that whether you get over the hump or not, I guess is where it comes down.
Well, and you got to realize, between buying a new pair of glasses, which I did, pair of prescription sunglasses, which I did, and a year's supply of contacts, plus the eye exam. I mean, I dropped over $1,000 today. It's like, boy, LASIK, that's, half of an eye.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true.
I have no idea what the going rate is for LASIK. I haven't looked at it in a while. It used to be like 2,000 an eye, I think, something like that.
Or it was like 2,500, but we've got a special going on, and we also have financing deals. And
yeah,
it feels strange to be in a medical setting with sales techniques kind of being flung around you.
Yeah,
I don't want to feel like I'm getting the floor model at the furniture store from medical procedures.
It does seem like a little adjacent to like plastic surgery or cosmetic surgery, I should say.
It definitely is. It's voluntary. It's not a necessary surgery. And that's why for most people, LASIK is not insurable.
I would say, I don't think you can use insurance with it. I'm pretty sure you can use an HSA on it though, right?
Probably. But yeah, it's basically out of pocket. Yeah, so eyeballs. One of the things that you and I wanted to talk about is, we are not a sports podcast, but we've got a Super Bowl set.
Mm-hmm. Go Seahawks.
Yeah, not a Patriots fan. This is the funny thing. My wife is a Colts fan. I'm a Browns fan, but I'm wearing a Boston University sweatshirt. I went to Boston U. I hate the Patriots too, but then I realized, I like Mike Vrabel, the coach. Drake May seems like kind of a cool story. He doesn't really bother me. I think my hatred for the Patriots is a little bit outdated, and it's reserved only for their fans and their ownership now.
I mean, that's, I guess, fair, but those are like the enduring things about a franchise.
But if you like Mike Vrabel,
the players come and go, but the owners and fans, they're always there. Like that's the lasting thing. I don't know. Of course I love Mike Vrabel, a fellow Ohio State alum. He's coached with Ohio State, coached with the Browns. I love Mike Vrabel. I would love for him to win the Super Bowl. It won't bother me that much if he pulls this off. But I'm just, we've seen enough of this. Like Tom Brady won 6 Super Bowls, went to another what, 3, 4?
Whatever, yeah, a lot.
I mean, wait, what? Yeah, well, we probably won't be able to figure it all out. But lost to the Giants twice. Lost to the who else did they lose to? They
Ironically beat the Seahawks from the bench when the
should
Seahawks
have
choked it
lost.
away.
Should have lost to the Seahawks.
Russ
Yeah, maybe
Wilson
or
didn't
did
hand
they
the
only
ball off
lose?
to Marshawn Lynch, and away we go.
Yeah, did the Patriots only lose to? Oh, the Eagles. Nick Foles.
That's right.
Nick Foles Eagles. So three others that they went to. Anyways, my point being, they've been in 9 Super Bowls. Like, did they really need to be back in the Super Bowl in the second or the first year of Mike Vrabel, second year without Bill Belichick? Like, I don't know. It's nothing about that excites me.
Second coach since Bill Belichick, not the second year.
Yeah, it is, because Mayo is only 1 year, and this is Vrabel's first year. They fired Mayo after 1 year.
But all right, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. So I'll take your word for it as I hear you clicking away.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Hey, Grok, tell me why Andrew is wrong.
No, you're correct. Good job. It just felt like Belichick's been gone longer than that, because I think he was dead man walking for 2 years.
Yeah, a little bit, but yeah. So he's been gone about as long as his girlfriend has been alive.
Yes, indeed. Well, anyway, the other reason why I wanted to bring up football is when I was watching the NFC Championship game, the rejoinder music, the music heading out to break.
Cool. Very
It was
cool.
essentially like this podcast soundtrack.
Yeah.
Do you remember which ones do you remember?
Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Alice in Chains. You said the Tea Party. I must have missed that one. What Tea Party song did they do?
So I'll be honest, I didn't hear it either, but a friend of mine said he heard it, and I believe him. Okay. It was a Tea Party, and then I know I heard A Perfect Circle. Judith, I heard.
Judith.
I think it was Judith.
It was Judith. Yep.
So, like...
Which, by the way, that riff in Judith, just that intro part, like, to Judith, is so freaking good.
Although, would you blame my friend if he confused Judith for one of the riffs from Transmission?
Interesting. We could have controversy here.
It could have been Army Ants from Transmission, which sounds a little bit like the riff from Judith.
I mean, it's not like totally crazy, no.
But the good news is that got me to go back and listen to Transmission in its entirety this week. And yeah, Psychopomp will always be one of my favorite songs forever, but I forgot just how great the first half of that record is. It definitely fades a little bit on the back end.
It does. It's probably actually among my least favorite Tea Party albums overall. But I am with you on that. Opening half is very, very, very strong.
What's really funny is the Spotify numbers. It's like Temptation, 6.5 million streams. Army Ants, 333,000. Psychopomp, 2.2 million streams. 550, 250, 607, 400. And then it drops all the way down to 140.
Yeah. That is the definition of a band that is so much better than their commercial success. And I don't know what else to say about it. Like,
well, I learned about them on Much Music because they're Canadian.
Same here. Exact same. And I, like, Jeff Martin is actually an insane musician. And to be able to play the guitar parts that he plays and sing over them,
he's crazy.
Unbelievable. Like, he is playing parts you should not be able to sing like the way he does. Because what, like, sometimes, how like sometimes when people are really good guitar players and then they sing on top, their like diction or their like rhythmic phrasing of everything they sing kind of falls with their right hand or left hand if they're a left-handed guitarist. But you know what I mean? Like you sing in the syncopation with what you're playing. Jeff Martin somehow doesn't do that, and I don't know how that degree of coordination, it rivals, like, when we talk about, Stephanie Mannertz from Brutus, like, the ability to play some of those drum parts and be singing, and to, like, sing parts that aren't, like, just lining up in syncopation with the guitar or the drums that she's playing. It's unbelievable.
It's one of the things that I've always been most amazed about Tom York as well. Tom York's rhythm on the guitar versus the rhythm of his vocal melodies was
Yep.
astonishing.
It's so crazy when people are able to separate those 2 things, because as somebody who is a novice and, like, will mess around with the guitar and occasionally try to, like, come up with a singing part, like, I do it all the time. Like, I'm just singing in, like, with what I'm playing exactly, you know what I mean? It's not that separation of parts that, like, belong on their own, and it's so hard to wire your brain that way.
Yeah, well, and to your point about their lack of commercial success, the when I got to finally see the Tea Party at the Paradise Rock Club in Boston when I was in college, there were maybe 20 or 25 people there in a club that should have held maybe 150 to 250. Yeah,
Yeah.
I never know how
So
tightly they can pack them into clubs like that, but definitely should have been more than the 25 to 30 that were there.
I saw them at Edgefest in Toronto. So it was in Canada. And that obviously it was packed for other bands. Tool was the headliner. So, like, obviously people were there, but, like, the crowd was definitely into the Tea Party there. But I might have told this story before. I was supposed to see the Tea Party up at St. Andrews in Detroit when I was in college. And so a buddy and I drove all the way from Columbus up to Detroit, and we get there and there's nobody around. And this is pre-internet on cell phone days. So we have no idea what's going on. So we walk up to the building. There's literally a sign taped to the door that says, "Due to a border crossing issue, the Tea Party is unfortunately had to cancel the tonight's show." But, like, you would think if you show up at a normal time for a concert, like, there'd be lots of people showing up and trying to get in.
How'd they get the
There was
word out? Yeah.
nobody else there. It was like, were we the only people who were going to be at this show anyways? Like, could that sign have just said, "Hey, Mike and Andrew, appreciate you guys driving all the way up here, but you guys can go home."
You guys were like 2 out of 2 dozen,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
there are dozens of us.
All right, let's move along. This week, Geese was on Saturday Night Live, and it actually made me like Geese more than I did before the week started. I think getting to see them perform those songs gave the music a little bit more context, and they also did. It feels weird that my favorite song by the band from their new record is the first track, but it really is. I think it's the best song on that record
I
for
think it's
me.
the coolest song.
And they played it, and I thought it came off really well, and I enjoyed all the people who are like, "What's this? This is the worst band I've ever seen on Saturday Night Live." Like, all over social media, it was like, all right, well, this felt a little bit more like when a hardcore band goes on national TV on late night. And so from that
Oh,
standpoint,
do you remember when
I appreciate it a lot more.
Knocked
Yeah,
Loose did Kimmel?
Kimmel
The comments were
was the best.
hilarious. Just hilarious reading the comments. Like, an iconic moment for hardcore, one of the greatest late night performances of all time, and just people who just don't get it. And so what's funny is, like, I'm gonna be one of those people for Geese, like, but I'm also not. Like, I get why people like Geese. Like, I totally understand what it is they like about it. I just don't like Cameron Winter. I just don't. I don't like his voice. Mm, Something about his whole aesthetic just rubs me the wrong way. And this is no shade to anybody who likes them, because, again, it's a totally respectable position to have, to love this band. I get it. I get what it is they like. And I musically and sonically, I think it's cool the way they deconstruct songs. Like, talk about that opening track on Getting Killed is, like, just a complete deconstruction of a song. And I think it's brilliant and it's really cool. I don't hate Geese, but I just really struggle with it, and I did not necessarily care for that performance.
Did you enjoy kind of the outrage and the
Oh,
weirdness
I
of the
do.
reaction?
I do, because like there's people who are like being sincere, like, "Oh, this is the worst band ever," and it's like, I don't know, like I think that's just such a ridiculous comment. Like there are so much worse bands than
Well, and
Geese.
I
Like
was
it's
trying to
not
think of a worst, a quote unquote worst Saturday Night Live performance. But the thing is if I didn't like it, I don't remember it. I only
right.
tend to remember the things that I loved.
But like this is one of those things. Like I promise you, if Bob Dylan played Saturday Night Live, but somehow you didn't let anybody know it was Bob Dylan, you said, "Hey, this is a new artist, Alex Brigton," and you
Give
put
him
him
his
out
old
there.
name, Robert Zimmerman.
Yes, yeah, perfect. Robert Zimmerman. I promise you, lots and lots and lots of people be like, "Oh my god, this guy sucks. This is so bad." I know, and I know you're not a Bob Dylan guy, so you might feel that way anyways.
But
But
we will
like,
talk about Bob Dylan in a little bit.
yeah, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's all contextual. Like these things kind of matter. Like, an art as a like subjective form is like always going to be a weird thing when you put a band that leans into the art of it a little bit heavier into a place like Saturday Night Live. And I know I sound super pretentious saying that, but like that's just how I perceive music, and I think that's how a lot of the people who love a band like Geese are listening. Like that's their context and their lens through which they're listening.
Well, and I think there's something to be said about how hard it is the older we get to fall into and be attracted to the pretentiousness of some of the more artistic statements. And
Yes.
Geese is a band that's making a lot of artistic statements. And I got to be honest, a lot of that stuff is for young people. And the older
But
you
yeah.
get, the harder it is, and the more out of touch you feel if you're too big into it, like you're trying too hard, like you're doing the how do you do, fellow kids,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
yeah.
I don't want to be Steve Buscemi.
Right. But like it's funny because these that's how these things work though. Like for us growing up, like we never understood the Beatles as counterculture, right? Like they
A
the
better
Beatles
example
were
would be David Bowie. Like people had to tell us about
yeah.
Bowie.
But for our generation, you would be looking at it as like a
Marilyn Manson.
Pearl Jam is a good example though. If you people who understood where Pearl Jam came from before they blew up versus what they became after they blew up, like they were different things. Like there was an era where Pearl Jam was a super rebellious band, and then they became sort of not that. And I would even say like Radiohead is a band that was very much counterculture when we were first like getting into them, and they became the culture later on. So um I don't know, like these that's kind of how
See,
these
and
things
I
work.
think of Geese as kind of like a Modest Mouse, where if they could take it,
That's a good
they
one.
might take a turn at some point. And there was a time where Isaac Brock was doing songs about dirty fingernails, and then there later on he's writing hit radio songs, and
Yeah.
I could see that for a band like Geese.
Yeah.
But last but not
I was
least, go
oh
ahead.
yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead. We wrapped a bow on that.
Yeah, last but not least, I was watching the performance with my son, and kind of quipped at the end. I was like, imagine what the outrage would be if people realized that their guitar player wasn't always named Emily.
Mm,
The things people don't know would piss them off, like the boomers, piss off the
yes,
boomers even worse. Or the
for
older Gen
sure.
X. It's not even boomers anymore. Boomers are too old to be watching Saturday Night Live. We're now talking about the oldest of the Gen X.
I was to say you got to be careful with that Gen X because that's where I fall. So
All right. So over the weekend, because we were snowed in, I watched a lot of movies, and it was kind of funny because I was sitting there, scrolling through the list of things to stream, and I knew I wanted to watch a movie, and I see the film on the streaming service. I call across the house to my wife, like, Jen, you want to watch the Springsteen biopic? You want to watch the movie? She's like, yeah, let's do it. And so she came over in like 5 minutes, and I started it. And we were about 5 minutes into the movie when we realized it was Timothy Chalamet playing Bob Dylan. I'd started the wrong biopic. I just saw The Complete Unknown, and I got it confused with Deliver Me from Nowhere. So we watched the Bob Dylan biopic.
Okay.
So I watched both.
That's funny.
The Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan one, and then last night we finally got around to watching Deliver Me from Nowhere, which is Jeremy Allen White playing Bruce Springsteen.
So you wanted the Springsteen one,
and I accidentally watched Bob Dylan.
See, I would do it the other way around. I would be looking for the Dylan one and end up with the Springsteen one.
Well, either way.
But I haven't seen either one, so unfortunately I can't really comment on the quality of either of those, but I do think that's hilarious that you wound up getting there in a roundabout way.
Yeah, and I haven't watched a music biopic in a long time. Probably, I don't know, maybe since the Queen one. And
I never saw that one.
Yeah, I kind of forgot what these films can do in terms of creating musical context that either we weren't alive for or we weren't aware enough to really feel.
Have I ever seen a music biopic
or biopic? Well, there was the Johnny Cash one.
Didn't see that.
What's his name played Ray Charles.
Didn't see that.
It was called Ray.
Why am I drawing a blank on his name? I know who you're talking about.
Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx, yeah. Is A Star Is Born, does that count as a biopic?
No. That's really funny that you've never seen them. I would have thought they'd be kind of in your What's Love Got to Do with It, which is Angela Bassett playing Tina Turner.
Tina Turner.
Let's see who else we got.
No, I didn't see that one. Man,
how about Almost Straight
Famous?
No, Straight Outta Compton.
Didn't see it.
You didn't watch Straight Outta Compton?
Nope.
Man, this is really disappointing.
I don't think music biopics are that interesting to me. And
Walk the Line was Johnny Cash, but that was Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon. Okay, how about
see that one?
Going back to 1987. Did you watch La Bamba? Man, I watched that one. Ray, I did not watch Elvis. 8 Mile. Does 8 Mile count?
8 Mile I did see. We're really pushing the boundaries there. What about Selena? Wasn't there one about Selena?
There was. I never watched that one.
I think I saw that in the dorms my freshman year of college. One of those like nights where there was nothing going on and I was so bored and had like absolutely nothing going on. And so I just put on we had like a movie channel, and I think I watched the Selena one.
All right.
I don't know why else I would know that was a thing.
Couple more, and then I'll tell you why I enjoyed these movies so much. The Runaways with Kristen Stewart playing Joan Jett and Dakota Fanning playing Sherry Curry.
Yeah, never saw that one.
No. All right. Well, the Selena one's here. Jennifer Lopez played Selena.
Yep. What year was that? Does that have a year for the Selena one?
Do you have a guess?
Well, my freshman year was 98, so I was going to say somewhere around 98, 99.
97.
Yeah, okay. So 97 was the theatrical release. 98 is when it was hit the streaming, or not streaming, but the movie channels, if you will. So yeah.
So A Complete Unknown, I'm going to start there first. The Dylan movie, which really talked about a lot of what he went through in terms of going electric at the Newport Folk Festival, Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie and all that kind of stuff. I'd always read about, oh, the controversy around Bob Dylan going electric and all this kind of stuff, but I didn't really have much of a concept for how big of a deal it actually was, because even by the time you and I were music fans in the late 80s and into the 90s, the music had kind of flattened out where you could play electric, you could play acoustic, they all belonged on the same pop channels,
Yeah.
but
You
that
play
was
them both
so,
in the same show. It's no big deal. You
and you
see bands
probably
do it all the
did.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a Guns N' Roses tour when they had the little living room setup, and they would play a 4 or 5 song acoustic set in the middle of their major stage show.
So my high school band did that. We had a living room set like in the middle of our show where we brought out like a couch and a couple of guys, like the guitarist and the singer were on the couch. I had they set a ladder up beside it, and I actually climbed up to like the ladder and sat down on the top of the ladder beside there, and then the drummer stayed with the drums, I think, if I remember. But yeah,
Fun gimmicks, man. Fun gimmicks.
man, we were industrious high school kids. Let me tell you, we thought we were going to be the biggest band in the world. So
But by the time you and I were becoming music fans, Bob Dylan was kind of already old, and he
yeah,
had already given up. I guess he played Masters of War in '91, a benefit that still sounded like the actual song, but
hmm,
my Bob Dylan history is more, Guns N' Roses doing Knocking on Heaven's Door.
yeah, for
And so
sure.
Bob Dylan is kind of this musical reference more than an actual artist by the time I'm becoming a music fan. And I went back and I listened to some of those records, and I bought some different things at used CD stores just to give it a shot. And I was never a big fan, but at least now I can have an appreciation for the career arc and the story arc of why everybody knows Bob Dylan's name today. And I kind of knew, but it just, to have Timothy Chalamet do it, a really good biopic will set the time period and set the vibe of the community that everything was going on in. And between Timothy Chalamet and Pete Seeger was played by Edward Norton. It was really, really phenomenal. And I appreciate, even though it doesn't make me a bigger Dylan fan. And by the way, after seeing all that stuff and him going electric at the Newport Folk Festival and all that stuff, I think he's the asshole. I don't think they,
Well, there's a hot take.
but I think the film was successful in not spoon feeding you some resurrection arc or some, not resurrection, but
Redemption.
redemption,
Yeah, that's
which was
interesting.
the opposite of Deliver Me from Nowhere. And maybe this is just the true story, but this one is going to be fascinating to you, I think, for the same reason it was fascinating to me. This one is Springsteen. He did Born to Run. He did The River. He's coming off a successful tour of The River, and they want more stadium rock hits. And he is struggling with depression and fame and everything in between. And so he grabs a 4-track recorder and an engineer in a bedroom in this house, and he records Nebraska. And he thought at first that maybe these were going to be demos and he was going to take it to the E Street Band and they were going to work them out. And they tried with some of them, and actually he wrote some of the songs that he wrote during these sessions did end up being saved for Born in the USA, which came out later. But this is like, we've seen this story, but this is more of an origin, the original version of the story that we saw with Pearl Jam when they struggled and they made no code and they eschewed their popularity, and struggled with their fame. I guess I kind of knew that Springsteen had gone through this, but I, again, you just reading the stories doesn't really do it justice. And so to see how that all happened and to see him kind of bravely stand in the face of the record executives and his manager, and potentially threatening his relationships with his band members to release this sparse solo troubadour acoustic singer-songwriter record that, you know, I think fell under a lot of criticism in the moment, but now is considered a classic and a brave move. Um, yeah, the storylines happen over and over and over again. I told you a couple months ago, because I know you don't like Van Morrison, but this is what Van Morrison did with Astral Weeks. You know, he had Brown Eyed Girl, he had all these big hits, and they were like, "We need more of that." And he's like, "How about a 9 minute song with weird trumpets and stuff?" You know,
Yeah. Or well, so had you listened to Nebraska before watching this?
I'd heard it. Yes, I've listened to it probably a handful of times over the years, but I'm not a big Springsteen fan, so
Yeah,
it was
me.
just
Well,
like
I don't know if I've ever listened to it from beginning to end. I I know I tried once because it got highly recommended to me by somebody who really into Springsteen, and I really respect their opinion, so I gave it a whirl. It's just I don't know. I think what probably watching a movie probably does is at least gives you the context to have a greater appreciation for what an album is trying to do or a moment in time that maybe I don't have as somebody who's just an outside observer of all that. But it is interesting to like the Bob Dylan one. Was it career spanning the story, or was it solely focused on that switch to electric?
it was both of these films were pretty focused on a shorter time period. There were definitely some flashbacks. The Springsteen movie talked a little bit about his childhood and his father to try and draw a through line between family depression and his depression.
Mm-hmm.
And there were definitely some little hints and back and forths in the Dylan film as well, but it really did focus on a particular timeline. It was not, I wouldn't say it was like wholly career spanning. No.
That probably makes me a little more interested in them then. Like, I think part of why probably that I just don't tend not to watch them is because like I always feel like I have a pretty good sense of the overarching story of a lot of these people. Like, I read a lot of biographies, I read a lot of commentary and articles about artists and musicians, and so maybe it's arrogance on my part to think that I know so much about these people already. I think if it does actually sound more interesting to me if it just focuses and gives broader context to one moment as opposed to just telling their life story, which I already kind of know the beats, right? The big talking points of either of those guys' careers.
One is the side characters too. So in Deliver Me from Nowhere, you get to know John Landau, Springsteen's manager,
Hmm.
and how he's interacting with Jimmy Iovine, who is somebody who I came to understand in the '90s as a record executive who was part of, I don't know, DreamWorks. Was he part of DreamWorks
It was one of the
or maybe
big.
Maverick? I can't remember, but
No, Maverick was Madonna's.
yeah, but I think Jimmy was
Was he
part
part
of
of
it
that?
too. Anyway, it doesn't
Okay.
matter. You know, he was a studio engineer on Born to Run, I guess, and it was a pretty good launching point for a career in music. But he
Yeah.
was one of the ones who was kind of, without calling it career suicide, was kind of calling Nebraska career suicide for Bruce Springsteen, because they had
Yeah.
so much momentum and they had so many things going for them. To not lean into what was already working seemed like the dumbest thing of all time, no matter what he needed as an artist in that moment. But, it's a testament to Bruce, it's a testament to his manager, Landau, to stand next to him and fight for him, no matter how business backward it was.
Well, and that's always where like the best art gets made anyways, is when you are going in a direction counter to what people are expecting of you. Like anytime you can like almost all of the highest rated albums every year are the albums that surprise people in some way. Like, oh my gosh, they went in this direction. Oh, they did this. You know, when you do the thing that's expected of you, people can still like it a lot and say it's a great album and it might sell a lot. But those like touchstone moments, those like, oh, holy shit, this is a thing, you usually have to surprise somebody with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also interesting for in cases like I was thinking of Counting Crows too because I saw that documentary on HBO over the Christmas New Year's holiday break, and you know they made August and Everything After that went to the absolute around the world and back again. It was so big.
Yeah,
And then they make Recovering the Satellites, and it's a bit of a departure, but they thought they were still kind of in, I think they still felt like they were in the pocket of all the
sure.
stuff that they did on August and Everything After. And it wasn't a bomb by any means, but it certainly was a disappointment in the scope of August and Everything After. But I think fans still felt like, oh, these are loud guitars and I hear distortion and everything. This isn't a Counting Crows record. And
Yeah,
that those thoughts in the moment that are like, this is a huge departure, like time goes, no, it really wasn't that big of a departure. It only felt like it in the very beginning of the moment.
the thing about Recovering the Satellites is it attracted all the like Indian alternative music fans at my high school.
Really,
Yeah, and they were not into August and Everything After.
just because the guitars were loud and Angels of the
I
Silences.
I think so, honestly. But I think in general, like the like where I delineate those two albums is not so much in the songwriting, but more in the actual guitar tone itself. The guitar tone has more of a Gibson Marshall. I don't know if that's what they were using, but it has that sound on that iconic guitar tone on Recovering the Satellites. Whereas August and Everything After has much more of a bluesy Fender kind of sound. And not saying that any one is inherently better than the other, but I think it's just it speaks to just that tone difference between the two.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's and you're, I doubt they actually used Marshalls and but it sure
Yeah,
sounded like it.
it
It
did.
sure
Yeah.
sounded like it. Um, all right. Well, anyway, that's, I guess that's all my, I covered all my musical movies in one fell swoop here. So there was a little bit other news this week where one of my favorite bands of all time, Death Cab for Cutie, is going back on a national tour, but along with that, they announced that they're going back to an indie label. They signed with Anti Records, which is also Fleet Foxes, MJ Lenderman, Waxahachie. And so it makes, and it's a nice headline. You know, they started out on Barsook, and then they signed the big label deal after transatlanticism and got all that success. And now that they're a mature band, they're going back to the indie label. But like, if you're on a label that has Fleet Foxes, MJ Lenderman, and Waxahachie, does indie even really mean anything anymore?
No. Like I mean, I don't know. I think
You
like
just so dismissively said no. I loved it.
well, because it's like it's a weird thing. Like I think we talked about this. Like alternative, like for a moment in time, had an actual sound. It didn't mean anything like alternative. It was a sound. It was a sonic quality. And like indie has gone through this where like it, for a period it meant something and then it became a sound. And now I don't know really what even, I really don't know what I would define as indie music today.
And by the way, this was, I'm looking it up. Anti was founded in 1999 as a sister label to Epitaph Records.
Really? Epitaph?
I guess.
Huh. I'll be damned. I never knew that.
Which I guess is also an independent label, but we're talking about giant labels, even if they're
Well,
independent.
Epitaph is Epitaph really independent? I mean,
It says it's an American independent record label owned by Bad Religion guitarist Brett Gurwitz.
I thought they were okay. I thought they were owned by like one of the big. Apparently not. Apparently I was wrong about that. But
But
I
on
mean,
top of it, like
I
all
know
these
Brett Gurwitz
labels,
runs it, but
these independent labels then sign distribution deals and with giant distribution houses, and I don't know. I don't want to take anything away from them. I just don't think it matters.
yeah, no, I agree. I, mm. I'm sorry. I like have a million rabbit holes I want to go down now with like Epitaph and stuff, but I will so far derail us if I do that because then we're gonna end up talking about Rancid and all this stuff. So we'll save that for another episode.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it seemed like the ultimate non-announcement, just telling
Yeah.
everybody what they want to hear, even though it doesn't really mean anything. And honestly, I don't think it you and I still talk about some labels that have a sound and have a roster that sounds cohesive.
hmm
But I
Pure
think
Noise. Pure Noise is like the ultimate one today that I still listen to every time I get an email from Pure Noise saying, "Hey, we signed such and such has a new song." I may not be super familiar with them, but I'm going to listen to it because there's a chance I'm going to like it.
and that's the relationship that I had as a fan to Equal Vision back in the Coheed days.
Yeah.
Alex is on
Sub
fire.
Pop back in the
Yep.
days, you know.
Um so anyway, yeah, that's the story. But the good news is Death Cab's going on a national tour. They'll probably have new music. Their last record was really return to form. It felt like a band again for the first time in a couple records, and so now hopefully they've even finally honed this lineup and their writing process that much more. It's like it's not the same band it was. Nothing could be,
Yeah.
but it's
But like
as
it's
long as
still
they
going
keep
to get
making interesting
attention.
music.
Yeah, like that's always going to be a thing that, you know, people our age are going to take note of when like okay they're winding up that machine again, like things are happening, like all right, well let's see what this one is, right? Like you still are going to pay attention.
Yep.
And I
All
mean,
right.
and that like you have to give bands credit when you achieve that point. Like you've accomplished something when a lot of music fans, whether they're going to like it or not, are at least interested in what you're doing. Like oh, like I mean tons and tons and tons of people are going to listen to that to a new Death Cab album, like you know, like like at least once just to see.
Well, for sure. And then we've talked about this. Mature bands, they need one or two of those songs to become staples for the future
Yeah,
set list because
yeah,
the set list is largely already decided.
yeah,
A
yep, for
collection of
sure.
songs around I Will Follow You into the Dark and Transatlanticism. And
Yeah,
then everything else is up for grabs.
that's right. So
All right, last but not least, not fun news, but Kanye West, yay.
mm,
Took out a full page ad in the Wall Street Journal with the most perfectly crafted apology and explanation of all time. And I'm not sure it matters. I'm not sure if anybody's going to accept it, but I mean, it was perfect. It was perfectly executed. We'll see if it works for anybody.
so how cynical do you want to be in life? It was perfectly executed, yes. Probably perfectly timed too, because oh, by the way, he has an album coming out on Friday. Just gonna let that simmer. I'll say this much though. I am a slightly more cynical person by nature than you are. You tend to give people the benefit of the doubt a little bit quicker than I
Are
do.
you saying I'm a codependent, Andrew?
No, not a codependent,
I
just
want everybody to get along.
but you're just quicker to forgive and forget. And it's not a redeeming quality of mine. Like it's something that I wish, you know, I wish I could get over things sometimes a little bit faster. There, you know, when I don't hold a lot of grudges, but when I do, it takes a lot for a grudge to go away. But having said all that, like I do want to exist in a society where people can grow, change, develop, like if
and get treatment.
and in this case get treatment. Like even if it wasn't a mental illness thing, if it was just if Kanye was just like, "Hey, I've been doing a lot of reading and I realized like, man, I had some dumb opinions." Like I think he should be given the space to grow out of that. Like we want him to get out of that and come back to the other side. But our society has such a terrible habit of like, oh no, like once you've said something inappropriate, like you're just done. You are irredeemable. You might as well not even exist anymore. Like you are human garbage, not worth anything, and I don't think we should live that way. Like I think we should give people the freedom to, again, heal, change, grow, develop, whatever you want to call it. So that's how I feel. But do I think that this Kanye letter is like, are we like, okay, cool, Kanye's back? Of course not. He's done so much damage to his image, his brand, whatever you want to call it. I'm I am willing to give him space, but I need to see some actions. Like, actions speak louder than words. I said to you earlier, it's okay to start with the words, and they nailed the words, but now we just have to wait and see if the actions follow. And there's nothing wrong with being patient and seeing what comes out of this.
It's just
But
really hard to decide what those actions are, because in
right.
this case, not being a Nazi is like the easiest part of most people's day.
Right. I don't sell swastika t-shirts. Like,
Right.
okay, cool. Good job.
But to
Yeah.
your point, I like the redemption story. I like that angle. I spent, not music related, but over, let's see, toward the tail end of 2025, I was listening to a weekly podcast called After Nexium with Allison Mack, who played Chloe on Smallville, and she got roped into this like self-help cult where
Yes.
she was.
I watched the documentary about it.
So
it wasn't specifically about her. It was about what was
Nexium.
the name of? Oh, it was. I thought it had. Okay, but is it like spelled weird, or it has like a
NXI?
Yes,
that looks like a V.
Yep. Okay. Yep, that's the one. Yeah. I watched the documentary on that. Yeah.
So this podcast was the first time that she was talking about her experience. It's post her 3 years in prison. It's post her being on probation, and it is full of not excuses but explanations, and how even though she victimized other people, how she was also a victim and got roped in, and just how down the rabbit hole she was. And it's instructive on how people come out of cults and how to get people out of cults and how to slowly rewire their brains after they've been in cults. And that's action. Going to jail for 3 years is an action, and then doing work after you get out of jail is action. But for Kanye, because he technically, I guess, didn't do anything illegal, I'm not sure what the action steps are to prove himself hereafter.
You could really, if you wanted to repair, relationships with the Jewish communities, you could do some outreach and, do some public work there. That would be an action. The thing I find fascinating about all these, though, Kanye talked a little bit in this letter about his struggle in understanding like what people were telling him, and like when the doctors insisted something, like he rejected what they were saying. And a lot of times with the cults, like when you tell a person in a cult and you say you're in a cult, do they go, oh my God, you're right, I never thought about that, like let me get out of this cult?
Now
No,
that you
that's
put it
not how
that
that
way.
works. Yeah, no, that's not how it works. Instead, it only makes their position stronger within the cult. Like, oh my gosh, clearly they're attacking us because they don't understand us, blah blah blah. And I'm so fascinated by the fact that like
it explains Alex Jones's entire career.
Yeah, but if you go all the way back to like Don Quixote, like how did Don Quixote find out that he was crazy? It's like, because he looked in the mirror, like it was reflected back at himself. He came to that own self-realization, and like that's what has to happen in a lot of these situations. And in Allison Mack's place, being arrested is a pretty big fucking mirror to like show you like, hey, this is what you're doing. Like you are hurting people. And like, oh my God, like how did I get into like that's the ultimate mirror. And I don't know what Kanye's mirror necessarily was. He hints around it a little bit in this thing in the letter, but I'm
I didn't
hoping that
catch that.
yeah,
What did you think he
because
was hinting at?
I was it. Did he say something about his wife? Maybe like somehow got him to see it. I don't know. He talked a little bit about that moment of realization that like, oh my gosh, like I do, I do need help, or I'm on a destructive path. I don't have it memorized, but like my point in all of this is unless that mirror has been held up and he has truly had that self reflection, I'm not sure how legit this is, and we'll just have to wait and see. Like I don't doubt that he has the mental illness that he talks about. Like I think schizophrenia, is that what he is, that or bipolar?
Bipolar.
Bipolar. I I'm not doubting that any of that side of it, but like he says it stems from a brain injury. I feel like to some degree Kanye was always a provocateur, right? Like I
But there's
don't
something to
remember
be said
really
for
a
these brain
time.
injuries, by the way, because one of the, everybody rolls their eyes at the Joe Rogan stuff, but back in the old days, he had Roseanne on. She also got into a major car accident
That's
with
right.
brain damage,
Yes.
and then her behavior started to get more and more erratic. She's still a brilliantly funny person, but she
Yes.
does some erratic things, and you
Without a
wonder
doubt.
why.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. But so my point is just that
Explanations, not
but
excuses.
it like
Remember.
but she was also a provocateur
Oh
even
yeah,
before then. And so that's kind of what I'm saying with Kanye. Like when you're already a provocateur and then you add, like I think he says what, frontal cortex injury maybe, or frontal
yeah.
lobe. Yeah, like which I think is your behavioral center of your brain, if I'm not mistaken. So
To the
I'm
right
just saying,
frontal
like,
lobe of my brain.
yeah. So I'm just saying, like, it kind of makes a little bit of sense then, perhaps. But I just, I'm not a Kanye fan personally, musically, anything like that. But
I thought you
like,
liked a couple of his records from back.
so I really liked Ye a lot, or Yay, I guess. I always call it Ye, but it's Yay. Which is one that a lot of people didn't like, but I thought it was cool. And then the monster, the one that had monster on it. I can't remember what it's called
That's
anymore.
fine.
I liked that album a little bit, but I'm not a big Kanye fan, but I just, you know, I would like for him not to be spewing hateful rhetoric all the time. So I'm hoping that this is legit.
I'm more interested because no matter what older people like you and I think about Ye, Kanye, his music continues to be really influential in the next generation.
Without
He
a doubt.
was he was one of the top artists on my oldest son's Spotify last year. I know he's not a Nazi sympathizer, but much not God, people are going to hate this parallel, but much like people continue to listen to Michael Jackson, when the music is good enough, it just
Mhm.
it doesn't matter how problematic the person becomes as long as the art is something that is infectious.
Yeah. Separating the art from artists.
Yeah. So anyway, I think
There's like a tattoo idea in there now, like get the word artist with the art like somehow separated.
separated. Yeah. I bet somebody's done that so much.
I'm
Everybody's done
sure.
everything by this point.
Well, like people like today love their like super literal tattoos too. Like, people like go for the like very obvious literal representation of things. But
See, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not part of tattoo culture. What is
yeah,
this?
like I don't know, like if I don't know, like I'm trying to struggle to think of an example like directly off the top of my head, but like if like your dad liked or your mom liked butterflies and she passed away, like it would be like, okay, well then I need this butterfly like coming out of a cocoon, but the cocoon is a grave, and then it says mom on the wings or something, like just hyper
Literal.
literal.
All right.
Yeah. So
All right. Well, I think we've done enough damage for one day. Next week, by the time you're hearing
oh,
this,
I need to
go ahead.
if you have a hyper literal obvious tattoo, that's all tattoos are good tattoos. So more power to you. It's just not something I would get for myself. There we go.
Fair enough.
I need to throw that disclaimer in there. Like I
Disclaimer.
don't like tattoo shaming at all. Like it's your body. You have the right to do what you want to do with it. So
Well, I don't have any tattoos, so I enjoy all tattoo shaming.
okay, there you go.
All right. I think we did it. By the time you're hearing this, you will be able to check out the new Joyce Manor record,
Which I'm sure we will talk about next week, because
I'm pretty sure we're going to be talking about it
boy
next week.
is
So
new Joyce Manor music always fun.
Yeah, do
That band
your
always
homework. Be
delivers.
ready for next week's episode. You can find everything we do at albumofrecord.com. Leave a rating, give us a review, do all those cool things to help us. And we'll talk to you next time. It's been the Album of Record podcast.